Let's talk about a war, but not the kind you're thinking of. I'm talking about an invisible, high-speed conflict that's happening right now, all around us. It's a war fought in milliseconds, and it impacts everything from our bank accounts to, well, global security. So let me ask you, what's the biggest war you've never seen? Because it's not being fought with soldiers or tanks. It's being fought with lines of code. And you know where the front lines are? They're everywhere, on every single one of our devices, all the time.
Okay, so this right here, this is what that modern battlefield looks like. You've got two sides. On the one hand, offensive AI is out there, just automatically creating malware, launching attacks at a scale and speed that, honestly, no human could ever keep up with. And on the other side, you've got defensive AI, trying to hunt, detect, and respond just as fast. This, right here, is the algorithmic arms race. So, how on earth did we get here?
Well, to really get a handle on the AI war of today, we have to rewind the clock. We've got to go all the way back to the beginning. To the, let's call it the original weapon, the fundamental building block of every digital threat, the computer virus.
Now, you've probably heard the word virus thrown around to describe pretty much any computer problem, right? But technically, it means something very, very specific. A true virus has two main traits. First, just like its biological namesake, it's designed to replicate itself. But the second trait is the really crucial one, host dependency. A virus is basically a parasite. It can't live on its own. It has to attach itself to a host, like a program or a document.
And that parasitic nature is what makes a virus completely different from its much more dangerous cousin, the worm. See, a virus needs you to do something for it to spread, like clicking on an infected email attachment. A worm, though, a worm is a standalone program. It can wriggle its way across networks all by itself, exploiting security holes. And that's the key. That ability to spread without any human help is what lets worms cause these massive global cyber pandemics.
So what does a virus actually do? Well, it pretty much follows this four-phase life cycle. First up is the dormant phase, where it's just lying low, hidden on your system, waiting. Then it hits the propagation phase. This is where it starts making copies of itself, infecting other files. Third, something has to trigger it. Could be a specific date, could be the 50th time you open an app. And finally, you get to the execution phase. This is the main event. This is when the virus delivers its payload, which is just a fancy term for the malicious part. Whether that's displaying a message or deleting all your files.
And the evolution of those payloads, it really tells a story. It's not just about the tech getting more complicated, it's about the motive behind the code changing, from simple pranks and curiosity to, well, a global criminal enterprise.
Believe it or not, the idea of a computer virus is actually older than the personal computer itself. Way back in 1949, the mathematician John von Neumann was already theorizing about self-reproducing code. But it took until 1971 for Creeper, the first worm, to show up as a totally harmless experiment. Then in '82, we got Elk Cloner, the first virus to actually spread out in the wild. But the real game changer, the big turning point, was in 1986 with a virus called Brain.
Before we get to that, though, you have to appreciate Elk Cloner. It was written by a 15-year-old kid as a prank. After you booted your computer from an infected floppy disk 50 times, it wouldn't load. Instead, you just got this goofy poem on your screen. And that just perfectly captures what the early days were like. Malware was often just a joke, a way for someone to show off their coding skills. But then came Brain. This one was created by two brothers in Pakistan, and it was the first virus for the IBM PC. Now, they claimed it was just meant to punish people who were pirating their software. They even called it a friendly virus. But this was a huge moment. The motive wasn't a prank anymore. It was about conflict. It was about software. And, most importantly, it was about money. The age of cybercrime was officially kicking off. And that shift, that leap from pranks to profit, it has led to consequences on a scale that is just staggering, almost impossible to wrap your head around. The costs are no longer just a corrupted file or a funny message on your screen. Get ready for this. By 2025, the projected annual global cost of cybercrime is expected to hit $10.5 trillion. Just let that number sink in for a second. That's not a grand total. That's the cost every single year. To put that number into perspective, Cybersecurity Ventures calls it, and this is a direct quote, the greatest transfer of economic wealth in history. Think about that means. It's way more profitable than the entire global illegal drug trade. It causes more economic damage in a single year than all the world's natural disasters combined.
So where does all that cost even come from? Well, at the micro level, it's what happens to us as individuals, losing our data, having our identity stolen, dealing with financial fraud. But at the macro level, for companies and organizations, the damage is catastrophic. We're talking operational downtime that costs millions, reputational damage that can destroy a brand, and even state-sponsored cyber espionage stealing national secrets.
And that brings us full circle. Now that we have the context, we understand how a virus works, we've seen the evolution from pranks to profit, and we know there are literally trillions of dollars at stake, we can go back to that modern battlefield and really understand what's happening in the AI arms race.
Okay, so the single most important thing to get about AI in this conflict is that it's a force multiplier for everybody. It is not just a new weapon for the bad guys. Its rise has kicked off this insane feedback loop. As the attackers use AI to build more sophisticated threats, the defenders are forced to build more advanced AI just to have a fighting chance.
This right here represents a massive paradigm shift in how we defend ourselves. Traditional antivirus software. It's totally reactive. It works like a criminal fingerprint database, looking for the digital signatures of malware it already knows about. If it hasn't seen it before, it's completely blind. But AI-driven defense is proactive. It doesn't look for fingerprints, it looks for behavior. It learns what's normal for your system and then hunts for malicious actions, which means it can spot brand new, never-before-seen attacks. So, what are the attackers doing with their AI? Well, for one, they're democratizing crime. They're letting novices with zero coding skills generate malware. They're using large language models to write perfectly convincing phishing emails on a massive scale. They're automating hacking, finding new vulnerabilities in hours instead of weeks. And maybe the scariest part? They're creating polymorphic malware, code that literally changes its own structure like a shapeshifter to avoid being caught. But the response from the good guys is just as advanced. They're using that behavioral analytics to spot anomalies, which is the whole secret to catching those so-called zero-day attacks. We're even starting to see defensive AI agents, like Google's CodeMender, that don't just find threats, they find the hole in the fence and then autonomously patch the code themselves. It's incredible. This table pretty much sums up the entire arms race perfectly. For every single offensive AI capability, a defensive AI countermeasure is rising up to meet it. AI-generated malware gets met with AI code analysis. Automated exploits are met with automated patching. The whole conflict is just escalating and escalating. And as you can see in that last row, at the end of the day, the battleground isn't code, it's tempo. It's just speed. Which leaves us with one final, pretty unsettling question. Attackers have shrunk the time it takes to find and exploit a new software flaw from weeks down to a matter of hours. A human-led defense team can take days, sometimes weeks, just to roll out a patch. So in a battle that's being fought at machine speed, is a human response no longer a defense, but actually a liability? The answer to that question is going to define the future of our digital security.